The elephant in the room is AI and automation.
We are seeing that becoming a bit of a challenge as coming in.
So there are different aspects to it.
The more the competitive org is or institute is, the better you gonna be as outcome.
Transition of talent from a non-tech industry to a tech industry.
The Vishwakarma Institute is the best example for the adoption.
So the rate of change will be different in different industries.
And that's the shift that we are going to start seeing.
A great change in their personality, in their thought process.
And they need some guidance to get successful.
Experiment, to take charge, to take risk, all of that.
So you are able to show that success story. So that entire journey is very important.
This is like a dream scenario for every employer.
A lot of it probably over the next 15-20 years may become extinct.
You will not believe, sometime back people used to teach Fortran.
But we're all kind of going with the flow, but those are the trends that we do.
The elephant in the room is AI and automation.
We are seeing that becoming a bit of a challenge as coming in.
So there are different aspects to it.
The more the competitive org is or institute is, the better you gonna be as outcome.
Transition of talent from a non-tech industry to a tech industry.
The Vishwakarma Institute is the best example for the adoption.
So the rate of change will be different in different industries.
And that's the shift that we are going to start seeing.
A great change in their personality, in their thought process.
And they need some guidance to get successful.
Experiment, to take charge, to take risk, all of that.
So you are able to show that success story. So that entire journey is very important.
This is like a dream scenario for every employer.
A lot of it probably over the next 15-20 years may become extinct.
You will not believe, sometime back people used to teach Fortran.
But we're all kind of going with the flow, but those are the trends that we do see.
Tired and frustrated of corporate artificial and plastic talks? Are you frustrated with unskilled YouTube gurus telling you what to upskill, how to cross skill when they themselves don't have any tech background? So here at Titan Stock, we call industry stalwarts from across multiple industries and have them share their views on what they look for in lateral candidates and in freshers. So these are people who've been there, done that, and who are continuing to do. So these folks are going to give you their raw, unfiltered opinion on what they want and what they look for in a candidate and how you can prepare. We will talk about how should a lateral approach every industry and how they should get in, and how a fresher should kind of prepare themselves so that they become industry ready and more employable compared to just another college graduate. Welcome to Titan Stock. Here we are with another episode, again breaking the shackles of corporate world and talking to you straight from the heart. Hey all, welcome to another episode of Titan Stock. Today we have a set of leaders and we are going to talk about something very critical, that is around preparing our next generation workforce in a kind of a tech driven world. So we have guests here from Vishwakarma and three industries. I'll just introduce them briefly. After that, you can introduce yourself once that is done. So we have Ajay from Vatatree Consulting, who is the CEO of Vatatree Consulting, Lochan, who is the founder of OfExperiences, and we have Gaurav, who is a business head at Physics Wala, and we have Vishwajit from Vishwakarma University. So you can just briefly introduce yourself, Gaurav.
Thank you. So I'm currently working as business head, but my journey has been from a corporate to entrepreneur. I started my career with TCS and worked through corporate, then entered into startups, run my own organization, failed to run it, and then currently with Physicswala, heading the business. And the whole idea is to, I strongly believe that entrepreneurs build any nation, and I'm working towards that. So there's a very, very brief intro of my.
Great. Thanks, Gaurav. So, Ajay, would you like to give a brief introduction about your corporate journey and then into Vatatree and what you do now?
Yeah, thanks, Gautam. So my career did start in the corporate journey. It started as an entrepreneur straight out of college, actually. So, I ran a HR consulting firm for 10 years, and then I wanted to experience the other side of the grass is always greener on the other side. So got into corporates, worked in the retail industry, worked in the education industry in the HR function, actually. So I was heading HR and talent acquisition. Then the entrepreneur bug bites again, and I think that's where I started again. It's a very recent startup again into HR consulting. So back to where I was, let's say, about 12, 13 years back, actually.
Loshin?
Thank you.
So a little similar a journey. So started my career in corporate. Incidentally, I'm not a HR professional. So I started my career in sales. I moved to operations. Then learning was something that I always liked. So I eventually became an LNOD professional, was in that space for about 15 years, became a career transition coach. And if you are in Bangalore, somehow, the startup bug bites you in some form or the other. You can't like not be part of it. So 5 years ago, I started out on my own as doing a little bit of coaching and corporate training. But today I run OfExperiences. We are an organization that enables people to support people through transitions. We specifically work with women as they're navigating career transitions, which is either through maternity or leadership. We also support other individuals as they're navigating different careers, spaces, and transitions. So happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. This is Vishwajit from Vishwakarma Institute and University Pune. I've been with Vishwakarma Institute since 2016, so it's a 9 years journey. I'm looking after the training placement and the corporate relations here. Happy to be here and looking forward. Thank you.
Awesome. So, I called all of you because you're all from different walks of life. So, you prepare students into college. You take care of students how once they get into job. Once they get into a job and then they have a break is when you kind of jump in. So there are different aspects to it. So essentially, if you look at it, every phase it's almost like a new fresher entering into like post maternity, it's like a fresh entrance again into the career, whereas again post college it's fresh, and then post school again it's fresh in doing it. So I wanted to have different perspectives on how do you prepare the workforce in general, and what kind of workforce is the most required or sought after in the work environment. So I wanted to kind of talk about the global perspectives on how do you prepare workforce. So first I want to start off with you, Ajay. Can you tell me the global trends influencing workforce preparation in non-tech driven industries?
Okay. So, I mean, there are many trends today, right? You could talk about globalization, you could talk about, sustainability, green jobs, so many different trends which are there actually, right? But I think the elephant in the room is AI and automation, actually, right? I think that is something that everybody is excited about at the same time. And probably workforce, I don't think they are worrying at this point of time because they probably don't have visibility on how it is going to affect them. But I think they will start to worry about it actually. So that I think is one of the biggest areas which is going to affect the workforce preparation going forward in many ways actually, right? So if you take an example, right, in a retail industry, because I have prior experience working in the retail industry, you have something called as a planner, right? A retail planner who is responsible for inventory, allocations and management, all of that markdown management and all of that stuff directly which affects profit, which affects sales, which affects your inventory, right? Today all this stuff is being done on an Excel sheet, right? And maybe you have a few tools which are being used. Going forward, I think with the advent of AI, a lot of these things will get automated, and the planner will no longer, the job skills that a planner currently needs to have will have to change very dramatically actually, right? So yeah, it will be more about reading the output of the AI. We'll be understanding that, and we'll be trying to communicate that to the management, saying that. So it's not going to be about, let's say, the hard skills anymore. It will be a focus more on, let's say, your soft skills. How you are able to adapt, how you are able to communicate. So these are things that the key skills in the future, probably in because of AI and automation, is going to be not just your hard skills, but your soft skills are going to be very important going forward. and this is going to affect things in very different ways actually, right? So when your key skills changes, your job roles change actually, right? So the old job roles which are there, some of it and a lot of it probably over the next 15-20 years may become extinct, but you will have a lot more new job roles which are coming up, right? And those are things that I think the workforce and the organization needs to be very aware about how things are going to change, and the workforce also needs to be aware about how they need to prepare themselves to make that change happen actually, right? So I think these are few of the changes that will come about. There will be a lot of changes in terms of hiring patterns, actually, right? Um, so, for example, um uh, today, like I said, the hard skills are more important. But going forward, like the soft skills, when they become more important, your hiring and your assessment, how do you take an interview? How do you assess for those soft skills will become more important, actually, right? So, changing of the hiring patterns will change. Your training and development will become a lot more important because as companies, as job roles change, employee you cannot just get rid of employees, layoffs, all of those things. Organizations will have to look at reskilling, upskilling, right? Let's say if you have a manufacturing setup, for example, then and you have automation which happens, the workers will have to probably be reskilled in terms how to use automated machinery or robotic machinery, right? So these are the kind of changes that will come about. And when we talk about reskilling, upskilling, and that's where I think the industry academic partnership will have to become a lot closer actually, where academic institutions, technical institutions, these are these partnerships will have to um, evolve to react to the changes which are happening in the industry actually, right? So new courses and retraining, that will become a big focus area as we move forward because of the effects of AI and automation.
Got it. So, a follow-up question to that is that, you said over the next 15, 20 years, I see it happening over the next 3 to 5 years. One,
Right.
okay, one is that.
So the rate of change will be different in different industries, right? Like, so for example, in a tech industry, probably the rate of change will be a lot different. But when we talk about non-tech industries, right, when we talk about manufacturing or a retail or an FMCG, probably the rate of change will be a little slower actually. So it could start anywhere from 3 years, it could go to 20-25 years also actually. And I think it will be a constant change. It's not going to be a change happens and it stops. It'll be incremental over a period of time.
So again, another one that you were mentioning in terms of, technology and AI impacting. So you are specifically into non-tech recruitment, right? So
Right.
you're into non-tech recruitment. You hire mostly for traditional sector companies like retail, banking, finance. So that's where you operate. But let's say, so you were talking about roles evolving. So I'll just tell you, so I have a ChatGPT premium version, and I do my entire guest research on it. So for example, I put in your company and said Vatatree Consulting. It's not just AI, it's Gen AI, right? So it didn't research what is Vatatree Consulting and come back to me. It rather said Vatatree Consulting. It's a non-tech recruitment consulting firm. But then it said Vatatree Consulting is a business consulting firm that does digital transformation project. And then from the consulting and the name, it just picked up and it's just auto generated its own version of what is Vatatree Consulting. Then I had to tell it, hey boss, this is not what I want, so this is the website, go and search and then find out what is relevant and then come back to me.
Right.
So that is something that I'm seeing. And how has tech impacted these non-tech worlds, and how much is the part of job description or the role duties is becoming a little more tech inclined? Do you see that transition
Yes,
there?
absolutely. So I think going forward, even for non-tech industries, you should have basic digital literacy. Okay, at lower levels.
Define
At
that.
higher levels, you should have a good level of digital literacy actually,
Okay,
and
define it.
comfort level. Huh?
Define digital literacy.
So digital literacy is comfort levels with working. So let's take let's say there's a corporate sales manager, right? It's not just about going and meeting clients and closing deals actually, right? Today it is about being comfortable with, let's say, lead gen systems, CRM systems, working through their entire tech landscape, right? And apart from that, being comfortable with AI, using chat gpt like you said, for example, to generate proposals, to come up with new presentations, doing marketing collateral, right? So these are things that a sales manager should now be comfortable with. So these are, I mean, that's what I meant by digital literacy actually.
Go ahead. So, because it's a very fluid term, right? Digital literacy can be something for me, can be something else in especially a non-tech world, right? Because there are a set of people who aspire to be in the non-tech world,
Right.
and for them, what is digital literacy, and that if it becomes clear, right, it helps them better, kind of prepare themselves mentally.
No, so I agree with you. So digital literacy is different for different people, right? So if you are on the Ola platform as a cab driver, you need to be able to use the app. You need to know, how to get bookings, how much are your earnings, right? And to make sure that you're getting paid. And so all that, you need to have that digital literacy actually. Let's say 5 years, or not 5 years, maybe 10 years back, the same cab driver or auto driver may not have had that level of digital literacy at all, or had no need for it. People were still struggling with phones, still struggling with phones which had buttons in them actually, right? So today, everybody needs to be digitally literate, but it depends on their job profile actually, at what level they are. So they need to up their game. Today, if they are doing something, they need to up their game in the future to meet up to those challenges in the future actually.
Got it. So, Lochan, so you're in a very interesting intersection space of L&D and of experiences and all of that. So, wanted to understand, what are the practices from early parenting that can be applied to a workforce preparation? Different stages of workforce preparation, not just early part of workforce.
So, I will give a fair warning. I'm not a parenting expert. So, but there are certain trends that we do see, and we do talk about it as well. One is the whole how much of I just spoke about digital literacy, but where do you start? So early parenting also is now struggling with how much of screen time, exposure, etc., that we need to provide to the children, which allows them to be comfortable with it, yet be able to independently think and have independent play and be creative and so on. There's a whole movement that's going around saying, let your children get bored. It's okay for your kids to get bored. So don't constantly stimulate them. So every time a child comes and says, I'm getting bored, don't give them a device or don't give them something. Allow them to think of a game or think of something to keep themselves engaged. While that is happening, there is also a second part, which is being also aware in terms of the emotional journey and um, well-being of a child. So today, the piece that we are seeing is that uh, younger kids are being given a lot more freedom, lot more independence to kind of do things on their own, to experiment, to take charge, to take risk, all of that. Now, when we combine these two, if I am as a parent not able to figure out where do I draw the line the with the devices, or in some sense, at the same time I'm also not creating an emotionally safe space for children, we are setting them up for disaster, because we are then looking at we will end up with a generation which is extremely, like, constantly looking for stimulants in the absence of the stimulants, they are going to have nervous breakdowns, anxiety, and we're seeing that a lot more in teenagers today. That we probably didn't experience this level of anxiety and nervous breakdowns and other mental health challenges that are coming in. So the the piece where uh, one, and like I said, I will always refrain from saying what a parent should do, but one of the pieces that more and more parents are being conscious of is to allow their kids an emotionally well space where they can come and they feel heard, they feel safe. At the same time, also fighting to build resilience, yet being able to provide. So when do you pick up a crying child and when do you let the child be, is the conflict that parents are also going through, because they feel that resilience is needed, which we do see in some of the incoming generation. I don't like to use the word younger because I feel I'm young enough. So in the incoming generation, we don't see that resilience. We don't see the comfort with failure, the comfort with feedback. We are seeing that becoming a bit of a challenge as coming in. So early parenting will need to focus on some of these areas rather than, can my child code when it's 4 years old and build an app? Can my child actually, take 5 people and play, create a new game, or even put a simple lemonade stand is a might be a much better space or focus area to look at. So, like Ajay mentioned, the not the hard skills, but the softer skills are going to be more and more important. They will learn how to code. They will have no choice. By the time they're 14, 15, or maybe 18, they will know how to code. But do they know how to handle failure? Do they know how to be resilient? Do they, can they accept things not going their way? Can they be in a space where they can be creative? These are going to be some of the um, areas where parents will need to spend time with their children early on.
So this, how is this, kind of seeping into the early workforce preparation or the workforce that is returning to work? How does these principles? What are the principles from this parenting thing that is kind of moving into the workforce preparation as well?
So, is it preparing them? I'm not fully sure, because I mean, uh, there are two categories of people that I see, and I do deal with younger or incoming generation, the Gen Zs in some sense. I do work with them, and I can see that there is a certain segment that comes with a little bit of privileges, and there is a certain segment that doesn't come with those privileges, but the confidence and sense of entitlement is the same in both, saying I deserve to be here, I want to be here, um you know and I'm going to make it. So the confidence is what we are seeing a lot more in the incoming generation. The irreverence is what we are seeing in them, which also is questioning everybody and saying, why should I have to come to work from like 9 to 7? I can work from anywhere, I can work from home. Why should I wear a certain type of dress and come to work? So there is a certain irreverence that has also started to come in. Good or bad, we don't know, time will tell us. So that's something we are seeing in terms of preparation. It's still very individualistic. I don't think as a community or as a society we are doing something together. The gaps between what we see in kids in India and kids abroad is reducing in terms of what they feel they are capable of. Again, like I said, confidence, their ability to stand up and ask, and that's the shift that we are going to start seeing, because 10 years ago it was not okay to maybe it was not acceptable somewhere if you get up and say, I want this flexibility, or I want to do this, or I want work life balance, and people would say, what is work life balance? Sit down, you have to work hard. But today they're saying, no, we don't want to be slogging ourselves. We want to be able to have another hobby and pursue that while I'm doing this. So that's a space we are seeing in the younger space. Are they being prepared for it? I don't know. I don't think anybody's preparing anybody yet. It is just happening by chance, or by in some cases by choice. But we're all kind of going with the flow. But those are the trends that we do see
Got it.
coming in.
So coming to you, Gaurav, given that you are, essentially prepping students for getting into, competitive exams and then getting into big universities, right? So I wanted to understand, the effectiveness of our education program in general. So as in, wanted to understand what are the key metrics that are used to evaluate effectiveness of an education program in preparing students for the tech industry, especially.
If you say uh, effectiveness of program, so for students it is also a big thing, right? When because a lot of people go to IITIMs and premium institutes, but rest of the people they have to select institutes based upon few metrics, right? Now, couple of metrics which are very famous, I mean everyone know is one of the thing is curriculum, right? Research papers which the college publishes, and and I will call it academics primarily. The type of faculty, the how many PhD faculty are there, how many masters, and all of that, right? So that is very important, obviously, because the quality of education will only be derived from the number of PhD faculties, because we have seen the entire journey of how things happen, research papers published, because that shows that how deep the university or college is, right? And even the curriculum, whether it is serving to the current needs. You will not believe, sometime back people used to teach Fortran, right? And Fortran is in some of the colleges, I will not name, but I've been through one of the colleges, right? So uh, this is one of the most important. Second metrics which everyone follows is placements, right? Everyone, the first thing everyone will do, go to the website, see how many people placed, what is the average placement, what is the median salary, everyone, right? And in this placement angle, right, it becomes, I guess, for the students or anyone, the most important in today's world, right? uh, but I believe two two things which I have experienced, right, from my life are very important. One is the competitiveness. Everyone should judge the competitiveness of that particular place where they are going. Anyone, for example, what do you feel, what makes IIT IIMs very different from other institutes? Books are same. Everyone in IIM, everyone reads Kotler. In
Correct.
like in any other institute, what my experience is, what it makes different is the competitiveness. The 200 people with whom you are studying, they are so competitive that they will change the way you think, you work, you see things. And this is one of the most important aspect which no one considers while considering any institute or any course. Now I will tell you how one can do. For example, hackathons, right? Anyone can go and see how many students from a particular college, from particular institutes are participating in hackathons, right? If you find no one is participating in any hackathon anywhere, you can see what kind of competitiveness that the college or institute brings on the table, right? So competitiveness, if that is, and even for the colleges or the institutes who are running, they, many of them, they promote, in at least management side you will see people participating in a lot of case studies, and a lot in engineering side I have seen a lot of promotion towards hackathons. People are preparing their kids that you participate in hackathon, Google hackathons, and happening. So third factor which I feel very important, obviously first two are important, but these is one of the factor which I feel no one considers, is competitiveness, right? How competitive the students are. The more the competitive org or institute is, the better you gonna be as outcome. When you will work with them, when you will be guided with them, you will be a better individual and you will grow throughout your life. And Fourth, which I feel is very important, what I have seen, I've studied through premium institutes, and one of the thing which differentiates is alumni, right? And alumni, people always say IIT, I am alumni is the best, but not like that. See Manipal, Satya Nadella is the chairman of Microsoft, right? And Manipal is so old organization, right? Uh, very few students or people they give credit to this, that how strong is your alumni base. I can tell you, when you grow in your career, the most important thing which will come to your help is your alumni. They will come to mentor you, they will come to guide you, they will hire you, they will groom you. They are the guys who will feel, yes, he is coming from my college, he is my prodigy, right? So I guess these are the two additional things which I feel. And not only, but if you see decision making, even from the college side or any org third party or even from a student, these four pointers everyone should consider. For example, college side, they should they should see how they can scale up their alumni, right? Help, how can they help, and they promote and a lot of things so that their alumni comes to the limelight. So these four things, and last two, which I feel that most of the people, they are only worried about placements, they only see numbers, but I see that is one of the thing. Once you are in the market, placements, jobs, if you are good, you will cover up whatever is lost, right? It has happened. I am a recession pass out from IIM 2009, worst ever recession, right, which happened in last 20, 30, 40 years. And most of my batchmates, they have covered it up, right? It will cover up, career will cover up. The only thing is, do you have the right kind of knowledge, right kind of guidance, and right kind of tenets with you. So this is what my formula for selecting any educational course or institute.
Got it. Got it. Thanks. Thanks, Gaurav. So, Vishwajit, I want to come to you from an academic perspective. How can educational programs be improved to better prepare students for tech careers?
Yeah, so if you see, the Vishwakarma Institute is the best example for the adoption. Vishwakarma Institute's VIT that became autonomous in 2008. So it's been 16th year of autonomy, and we become autonomous to change and to upgrade our syllabus. So in a traditional system, if you are affiliated to some university, like there are restrictions to change your syllabus and all. So we have academic autonomy. So we have a freedom to change our syllabus and review and revise our syllabus. So we have appointed the CEOs, CXOs, or alumni, the techies on our board of studies. So they continuously review and revise our syllabus. So that's a plus thing with the Vishwakarma Institutes. Like we are always touching with the industry current trends, and we review and revise our syllabus. The additional things, like we have introduced the industry internships, where the students gets to interact with the industry. They closely work with the industry for 6 months, and they get to know what is the current trends in the industry. They learn that, so that becomes very easy to get a placements. Placements is always USP of the Vishwakarma Institutes. But apart from that, I would say the sustainable learning, teaching learning pedagogy, that's another USP. So we have so many innovative things that we practice from last 2 decades, like industry internships, live industry projects, then industry electives through various industries. So their industry experts come, techies come, they teach our students, they guide our students. Then, of course, we have very good hackathon culture, as you mentioned. So we have hackathon clubs. We have 70 plus different clubs. We have very good club culture in Vishwakarma Institutes, and that really develop our students with their soft skills and hard skills. And again, we have adopted with the online learning methodology. So, with the classroom teaching, we have given Coursera license to all students. So, we try to motivate them. We motivate them to learn on themselves. Okay, so the current generation, Gen Z, they are more like to learn on themselves. They study through the YouTube, through Telegram channels. Okay, so looking at that, we have given them a freedom. So we don't restrict them to use Chat GPT. We don't restrict them to use mobile phones in the campus. And of course, we have given them access to so many platforms so they can learn on themselves. So these are the things that we practice to make them industry ready.
Got it. Got it. So I want to, kind of, lean a little towards talent, and then, I wanted to start off a little on the experienced talent and then go towards the, fresh talent. So if you look at it, Ajay, more of tech industries, right? Today they have a tech background, they have a tech backbone, but then, at the end of it, they are facing a particular industry, whether it be e-commerce, quick commerce, retail, or restaurant, food and hospitality, whatever that is. There is a the tech industries are are starting to cater different verticals and kind of revolutionize. But then what they miss is the domain piece, the domain expertise. So what do you see are the best practices for tech companies to kind of attract non-tech talent, and what kind of strategies work best, and what kind of strategies are being more sought after by the top guys in non-tech?
Okay, so so yeah, so like you mentioned, if you're looking at transition of talent from a non-tech industry to a tech industry, okay, uh, maybe I'd like to just briefly touch upon reasons for that, actually, right? So one, like you mentioned, is the domain expertise, actually, right? So if, for example, if you have a tech startup trying to build a sales enabled platform for, let's say, FMCG companies, right? You they better well hire somebody from HLL, or let's say a Nestle or a Colgate, the leaders in the FMCG space, so that they know that the product direction that they are going on is serving the market that they're planning to serve, actually, right? So domain expertise is one, of course. The other thing is, of course, to have a wider talent pool, right? A lot of the skills are transferable, right? Whether it be sales, marketing, leadership, these are the skills which are fairly transferable across diverse industries. And by targeting non-tech industries, tech talent can attract these people, the top talent in these skill sets, actually, right? Um, the third thing also, which is probably a little interesting, is in terms of, let's say, we've spoke about AI, and how basically the soft skills are very important, right? Now, if you have an experienced person in a non-tech industry who has been very successful across diverse industries, actually, right? So that person has been successful because they have demonstrated adaptability, demonstrated resilience, demonstrated good interpersonal skills, all of these things which are important in today's changing world, actually, right? So you get those skills indirectly, right, to your organizations as a tech organization, right? So these could be the reasons. And then of course, when we talk about strategies, uh, as to how you can attract the best talent, employer branding is the top thing, actually, right? And when you talk about employer branding, it is not just about marketing your brand, having a great career web page, or let's say having a good rating and a great places to work survey, so as to speak. It goes a little deeper than that, actually, right? So for example, it will start right from how, um, let's say, your recruitment team itself, okay? Tech recruiters are not used to understanding non-tech profiles, reality of life, actually, okay? You'll have to completely retrain your recruitment team to understand key, okay, this skill that is there in a non-tech industry can be transferred to the tech industry, and therefore this is a good candidate, actually, right? So the screening process, and the and not looking at it saying that, hey, this person is not useful, he doesn't know Java or C++ or whatever, actually, right? So that is one thing. The other thing could be would be in terms of, let's say, um, your assessments, right? Interviewing and assessment process, right? Your interviewers and your assessment process has to be tailored towards assessing those particular skills, the transferable skills that we are talking about, actually, right? You cannot go and I will test you on, let's say, give you a hackathon assignment and say that I'm going to test you on that. That's not going to work, because that person is not bringing those skills to the table. They are bringing a different set of skills. So your way of assessment, your way of interviewing is going to be very important. The third thing is, okay, you have assessed, you have made an offer, the person joins, right? Then what is your day 1 to day 90, your onboarding process, right? A person is coming from a different industry background altogether, used to a different culture. How is that? How are organizations going to make that person comfortable within the organization, right? How are they going to rejig their entire onboarding process to bring that comfort level, actually, right? um, I'm just going through the employee journey,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah, right,
right?
right, right. Exactly.
Totally.
Yes.
So because all this contributes to attracting the best talent, actually, right? So if you have a success story saying that X person joined 10 years back and he is now the CEO of the organization, you can bring in the best talent from outside the industry today, right? So you are able to show that success story. So that entire journey is very important, right? So that's then that through that journey, if you look at it again, the training and the reskilling. I won't say reskilling. You have the skills, but how do those skills apply to the tech industry, right? How does that? How can you do that? So the entire training programs may need to be rejigged also, actually, right? To ensure that the skills that you're hired for are made productive and giving you a result, right? So which traditionally, if a tech company is not hiring from a non-tech background, they may find it very difficult to do that, actually. And I think lastly, I think culture, right? Company culture, being inclusive, okay, is very important, actually. So inclusivity in this case means that people around you, the teams around you, the manager uh, who is going to be managing the person, the talent which is coming in, has to be open to the fact that this person is bringing in a different skill set, and how do I leverage that skill set, right? So it's all about how do you build that company culture and that inclusiveness within the company culture to welcome people whom you may not be used to when you come in, actually, right? So I think these are probably, if an organization can take care of all of these things, then you can talk about attracting. And it's not only attracting the talent, it is actually making use of that talent, actually, right? So at the end of it, so yeah.
So quick point to add on, right? In tech industries, the non-tech roles are not like an ongoing role that we hire for. So they are one in a few. Training your talent acquisition team to kind of how to deal with TA is as a totally different piece. That's where probably experts like you will come in. How to kind of navigate the whole thing within the non-tech recruitment space, so that we can take help of folks like you. One is that. And then employer branding is a very very contested space, okay? Because all the while, as in probably 5 years back, it's been that you give a job, you give them salary, it's good enough for people to come and join you,
Right.
okay? So that's it. Now only you have this great place to work for, then you have this glass door, and you have employer branding. The employer branding is also very misunderstood, because what happens is the HR has no clue about the marketing bit of it, okay? And the marketing guy is coming from a customer facing angle, and then thinks employer branding is just putting up a stall in 2 3 conventions.
Right.
If you put a stall in an Indian convention, it's employer branding. If you put a stall in a convention outside India, then it is customer marketing. That is the demarcation that I see. So that way, what do you think is a great way to brand employers, and what are the employers, uh, what should they be doing rather to attract more of these talent? What have you seen work best?
So you need a change from that, the traditional way of thinking. A HR person is, or a talent acquisition professional within an organization. I think you have organizations now which take employer branding very seriously. You have separate teams within organizations just focused on employer branding, actually, right? You have cross-functional expertise, marketing people coming in and saying that how do you build that employer branding, actually, right? But let's say in smaller organizations, you may not have that kind of a focus. That is where I think the cross training, cross functional expertise between a HR and a marketing to understand how they can kind of work together. The HR has to bring their point of view, and the marketing has to also bring their point of view in terms of how they can execute that employer branding. So yeah, I mean, you know these uh, uh, these could be ways that you could approach this kind of a scenario, actually. But it cannot be just just like set up a stall and get it done. It has to be a holistic experience, actually, right? It has to cover the entire employee experience that is there through that that selection. Even while talking to a recruiter, if the recruiter asks not an intelligent question to a candidate, the candidate gets switched off, actually. Okay. uh, and so it's very important for the recruiter to ask an intelligent question, right? Just common sense, it's nothing else, actually. And once you lose the candidate, he's not going to come back, actually. Whatever you may offer him, the best salary and all that, he needs to know that he's talking to somebody intelligent on the other side, actually. Okay. So that's those are the touch points are very important. The key touch points are very important. Which is when we talk about marketing, you talk about your customer touch points. When you talk about recruitment, you're talking about your candidate and recruitment team touch points, actually, right? So these touch points are important. And when you talk about HR, you talk about touch points through the entire employee life cycle, actually. So all that makes the difference in terms of building a brand. It's not just about the Glassdoor ratings. At the end of it, you know, HRs can also just call up and say, "Hey, you're my friend. Put a nice Glassdoor rating,"
Right.
right? But that is, I think people are moved beyond that. It's not just about Glassdoor rating. It's about the trust that you are built as an organization, as an employer brand, actually.
So, sorry, if I may add, I know this question was not for me, but if I may add this, um, I did work for an organization on their managers interviewing capabilities. Incidentally, it was a mid-sized tech company, and they were doing this around 21, 20 to early 21. 2021, we know what was happening in the tech world, right? Super bikes were being given to whoever, and I think that was one time where I was cursing myself of not being in tech. And they very clearly said, look, we don't have the wherewithal to be giving away stuff like this to attract talent. We want to have a great interviewing experience such that the candidate, whoever comes in, has, they may come in for the interview as one of the 10 interviews that they're doing, but when they go out and they experience that, they remember us and they pick us. So that was their strategy. So they focused on, like, Ajay mentioned, the experience and the touch point, and it starts to matter for people. because when everywhere you're treated like a sheep, and in one place you're treated like a king, then suddenly you're like, okay, this is the place I want to go, no matter what is the salary, no matter what they're offering. And they repeat, um, like whatever,
Referrals?
not of course referrals, but repeat applicants was almost like 100%. So people who were getting rejected would apply again 6 months later saying, is there a way I can come and work with you? Is there a way I can come and work with you? So that's a live example. I can, testify to what Ajay
And,
is
and
mentioning.
that's very sustainable model actually, right? I mean, today you're giving super bikes. Tomorrow, what will you give? I mean, the expectation is that super bike to super bike hai. Give me a super car now. Actually, Lamborghini leke aao mere liye, right? So you can't, once you set an expectation high, you just have to keep getting higher. I mean, there is a typical situation even with salaries, right, and compensation, right? There is no limit to what an expectation of a compensation can be today. Actually, it is at the end of it, you to build that connect, you need the other things to work really well, which are more sustainable, right? The touch points should be really good actually.
In placements, and also we observe the same things. Like the companies come, some new startups, so they come up with very good offerings to students. So along with their good pay package, they offer variety of things. Okay, so now the insurance and medical claim, they becomes a regular things. So apart from that, they give a once in a while on-site opportunity to the freshers, then some club memberships, some incentives to go abroad, to go on vacation, and that really attracts students.
That'll attract me also. Incentive to go on vacation, I also am
Huh.
willing to join.
And again, some tech giants, they offer stocks. Okay, so that again a big attraction to the students. But there are students who look for the job profile, who look for their growth prospect in next 5 years. Okay, or who look for the opportunities in within the organization. So it depends on the like how students think about towards the career, towards the job.
Just to add on the employer branding, I do agree with Slochna that we actually tried it. In my career, I worked for a company where we scaled a mid-size IT company in 4 years to a very decent level, right? And we did that, and we experienced one thing on employer branding. It is not one day job. What we did was we attached to the college. We worked with them throughout the year, and next year the kind of footfall we see very very different. I mean, it is not about going, and I mean, I feel we experimented, though obviously we had guides who told us how to get it done. But yes, employer branding, when you talked about, it is a continuous process.
But it adding on to it, right? We've worked with companies, and with certain companies, we've stopped working. More like a conscious decision. Okay, so in India, especially, what happens is you ask the candidate for an expected salary and all of that. No matter what is their expected salary, you start the interview process with no respite for their time. Okay, you complete the entire interview process. The guy is like, say, at 30 lakhs, he's expecting 60 lakhs. Okay, there is this 30% thing. I don't know who came up with 30%. They call it the industry norm. I don't know who set up the norm for the industry. There is
No,
nothing like that.
no,
It's just a way to,
today
it's
the
just a,
norm is 40% now
no,
actually.
no.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just a
In tech.
communist way of containing your compensation.
But I feel I have a my experiences throughout, because I am into startups since 2015. Money can be negotiated,
True.
but to I have even negotiated to a certain extent that people have joined us as 40% lower salary what they were getting. But obviously, they should see something else, right? I feel, and today again, in between the market was little 21, 22. I will call it as outlier years,
Outlier years.
right?
Yeah.
So, but today also again, there are a lot of things people are looking when we hire, and salary is obviously one of them, but there is a formula in the mind of the person, and then
I think think the part which, and I do want to call this out, there is a, uh, it's an error or a miss on both sides. So organizations are reluctant to tell you what the range is. So no organization is transparent about saying if you're joining as a senior manager, senior manager as a yeah, senior manager HR has this range, senior manager tech has this range, senior manager finance has this range. They don't tell you. So everyone, and therefore the expected salary that the person quotes, it's literally like, you know, when you're trying to sell a product or you're trying to sell a pen, you will go and say, ki, this is for 100 rupees. If the other person buys it, great. If the other, but it allows you room for negotiation. So a lot of candidates also come in mind saying, bol lo jo bolna hai. Let me give a higher number because what they 100% they will have that budget. So somewhere I will negotiate and I will land at the 30-40% number in between rather than, directly quote my 40% number because again, so that haggling mindset, which we are expecting, which we see in our daily lives as well, that haggling mindset is there even in the job negotiations as well from both parties. Um, the flip has also started to happen, and if I may, and I know the question varies, but I had interviewed a young fresher. I mean, a fresher maybe with 1 year of experience straight out of a very good graduation college from Delhi University, and she had worked in a large accounting consulting company for a year as a contractual resource or a consultant resource. So I said, okay, why are you moving out? And I was hiring somebody for a marketing role. So she has only done finance accounting. She's moving into marketing role. Of course, interviewed. She was a very smart kid. So I said, okay, so what is your current salary? She said, I'm not going to tell you. I said, okay, do you realize that I will ask you for your payslip? Yes, but that is after you have made a decision and you are going to give me an offer letter and to validate my proof of employment. She said, because I believe that I deserve X salary. Um, and if I tell you my current salary, you'll only give me 30%, which is not what I truly deserve. So there is also, like earlier when I was talking about the sense of, I deserve it and I am entitled to it, is also we see. So when candidates come in and say, this is my expected number, somewhere, the hiring manager is thinking, thoda, like, Gaurav mentioned, maybe there is room for some kind of negotiation. Maybe we can bring it down to, meet in the middle somewhere and bring that person in, which is why a lot of them take that ahead. Some organizations also very clearly say that, sorry, this is out of our budget and we can't take you forward as well. So both works.
So how I've seen it happen here, Lochan, is whatever you guys have said is good examples where there is always room for negotiation, and money is not the only criteria a candidate is looking for or a company is looking for. The reason companies don't disclose the salaries completely is because if they get a star candidate, if the salary is very low and the candidate does not even apply, then they lose out on an opportunity. Similarly, I believe when we recruit in the US, what we have observed is that the candidate quotes a specific salary. The profile, if it is good, we as consultants will submit it to the clients. The clients review the profile, come back and say, boss, she's asked for 250 grands, we can give 180. If she's okay with 180, we can proceed. If there is the performance, interview performance is exceptional, we can go to 200. But nothing 250 is not possible. Then you go back to the candidate, set the expectation. Sometimes the candidate drops off, sometimes the candidate comes back. Here, whether you put 250, 300, 700 also, what happens is they're like, interview karenge. And last May, after the entire process is over, where the candidate has invested time and effort, and the company has also invested time and effort, the HR comes and says, boss, this is a budget we have. And not necessarily the mistake of the HR. The business guy tells, the HR is just the face of it. It's often, I have seen within the HR fraternity that they are being taken a dig at for everything. Most of the times, it's the business which kind of tells the HR to do what is required, and the HR just, is the face of that, and that's what happens. So I believe that employer branding is also because the companies that have been rated great on great places to work for, the companies that post a lot of photos on employee engagement, rewards, recognition, is the company that does this also. And candidates who experience interviews with these companies come back and tell me, Matam, please don't put me across to these kind of companies. They are, I don't know, they were subji vendors in their past life. They start negotiating and they want to attract great talent from great GCCs. Mostly services companies are at fault. They will have somebody, they will then, once everything is done, the entire process is done, then comes to the HR. Usually they get a very bad end of the stick. So I experienced one candidate that I was hiring from, a very big retail GCC into a services company, where the candidate had, a lot of experience, and was fairly compensated. And then she had, even daycare benefits for her kid, and then stock options, and then there was a vesting period, and then so she was due for a little bit of stocks and all of that. And then she asked for a nominal this thing. This guy comes back and says, you know what, we'll give you 10%. The girl got so pissed off that she said, I'm not talking to that guy anymore. It's done. I don't want to work with this company. This guy is like this, then, this is what happened. And then what happened eventually was that, you know, once he became the leader at the HR level in that company, almost 17 people within the HR team quit in the next 3 months. In like, in a span of 6 months, the entire HR team was revamped. None of the faces was known. This is something I believe, it's not about great places to work for, or, rewards and recognition, or, putting on LinkedIn, the employee engagement things that you do, or, spending a crore on, setting up, hiring a big ground and putting up lights and fancy lights and doing it. It's being more cognizant of that. And then I also, I want to touch upon this. Pay parity is like, talking like, price of chicken per kg. How can you achieve pay parity? It's like, in IPL telling for fast bowlers, itna hi dega. So you're coming from KKR to MI, 30% hike. You're playing for IPL for the first time. You're coming from Australia, starting price is 20 lakhs. We'll not give you more. So that itself is a very communist angle to this thing. The entire services industry, especially, I believe it's a very, talks about capitalism, but there is a very very communist driven thing agenda that services industries have. Where the wealth is still concentrated at the top, not like traditional services firms like McKinsey, Booz, or anybody where there is a partner model. Services firms, the wealth is concentrated at the top. That is the only reason why Indian services companies get funding. No other services companies get funding. The partners put in the money. Indian services companies are the only models where it is investable, because they know that there is no IP, and you can acquire this company, and you will also get to walk away with a little bit of wealth where somebody else does the slogging. So I believe, employer branding is a very fluid term, and the whole employee experience, right from a TA person reaching out to the exit formalities, and when the person puts in the puts in the paper and wants to leave the company, that 90 days is the worst experience period of an employee.
So, I have, I definitely have to say this, that I think people are discerning enough. So, like this small company that gave an example of, the fact that it had almost 100% repeat applications, they are not they don't advertise anywhere. In fact, I really had to Google them up and figure out what they do when I got that contract from them to work on this. So a lot of people recognize these small interactions, and they talk about it. They talk about it. Some go to the extent of sharing it in their social network, some go to the extent of talking about it. And the y- incoming generation is not, they take to social media for everything. So they will not tell their friends, but they will put it up on Instagram and on X and on God knows Snapchat and God whatever other platforms are, that I went to XYZ company, I had an interview with so and so person. What a terrible experience I had. This is how they behaved. This is how they negotiated. Now, all of that starts to pick momentum on the employer brand. So certain companies, so it's really about what are you advertising and what are you selling. So people start figuring that difference out. So of course when we're talking about employer brand, we're not talking about the marketing, the glitz and glamour of it. Saying how are you in the everyday interaction, and are you being authentic in your brand communication. So if you're going to go out and say 5 things, but not one is true, then nobody is going to, believe you and buy your product. Just like any product, this is also something that you're selling there, right? So,
Yeah. No, no, absolutely. Reminds me of an old joke in terms of talent acquisition, recruitment, right? So, like, uh, um, a guy died and went up and met the devil, and the
Went
devil's
up to meet the devil.
whatever met the devil.
Okay.
Okay, went up, down is a different matter actually.
Okay.
Went and met the devil, and devil said, "Hey, come see how hell looks like. It looks wonderful actually, and all of that stuff."
I
And he
know this
goes,
one.
the story.
I know this
You
one.
see, he goes in and he says, people are having a great time, wonderful parties, just having the time of their lives actually. And then God says that, hey, come and see how heaven is actually, right? So, and then he says that people are just sitting around and just relaxing, not doing much, generally peaceful, right? So he says, I want to go to the place which is, the party place. So he says, hey, I'm going to hell. So he goes to hell. So the next day when he goes to hell, he sees, fires burning, dead bodies, the real hell actually. So he asks the devil, hey, yesterday there was a party happening here. What happened? He said, yesterday I was recruiting. Today you are today today
I
you
know
are
this one.
today you're part of the organization.
It's an old joke that never gets old, to be very honest.
I know.
Yeah.
So, true that. So, indirectly, if I have to, synthesize what you said, companies that make a lot of noise on social media are actually struggling to attract talent. So they make the noise. The companies with great cultures, generally with word of mouth or with repeat applicants, are themselves contained.
The best place, in fact, my previous organization where I worked, we didn't have a for managers and above, we didn't have any referral bonuses. And the concept was very simple that you will refer someone for a role if you genuinely believe that the company is great and that person is a good fit. Otherwise, we don't want to perpetuate the practice of saying, oh, I referred and, 3 months I make some money and, and after 3 months or 4 months, I tell that person, yeah, you leave after 4 months. This is not a great place. We'll both make some money. But that speaks volumes about the confidence organizations have in their own culture to say, this is the culture that we have. This is good. And when people refer, they take those references seriously because they're coming in. The referrals are not coming for the money for the referral, but coming in because the employees believe that this is a good place to work. And no better advertising than that. That's always the case.
And there is a metrics which an organization can measure without money. If referrals are coming, people are referring, you are a good place.
So, moving on to fresh talent, right? I wanted to ask you, Gaurav, what are the essential components of an effective internship program in a tech company?
Yeah, so my personal belief is, mm, this internship in tech is broken, right? If you have to see the internship, see the MBA internships. There, the people who do internship, they get real value because organizations come, they have that plan, they know what needs to be done, everything. In engineering internships, right, the person will land on the floor and organization generally, most of the organization don't have any plan. They just do something. So this is a little broken at the engineering part. There are different reasons to it. I'm not saying that because in MBA generally they have PPO things and people join and they continue with the same work. So that kind of philosophy is being promoted there. But in engineering, it's a little different because. Uh, but when it comes to defining it, we did in my previous experience also in my last service organization. So the most important thing is what is a goal you have from the internship. Most of the tech organizations, they pick it up either because of relationship, right? Or that we have to give some internship because I have a good relationship, I have to go for hiring. I have to take 10 people for internship and give them internship. What happens, they will hire and they will keep them and give them some work, and then after 2 months give them certificate, right? So the goal and whole and objective very clear that we are hiring interns, and what is my goal and the objective from these interns. That is the most important thing in tech. I'm talking about tech, right? Non-tech is little sorted. That's what I feel, right? Right. Because there, you can continue that work. Tech is very different. By the time maybe placement will come, the person will say, I will not work on front end, I will work on back end. I will not work on back end, I will work on front end. So thus anything can happen, right? I want to work data science. Anything can happen tech, right? So second is structured program, right? So most of the time if you see internship generally in tech, there are big service companies, right? They generally take interns, and then there are in Bangalore thousands of service companies from varying from 10 to 50 member, 100 member, and they take interns because that is their supply. They take interns, they offer them, and they get now most of them they hire, they think ki, we will try, if work out we will hire, if don't, so they will take the people, they will put in somewhere, and just float yourself. And then the challenge which happens is some of the smart guys they float, no doubt, right? But when you see the world, there are only 5% who are good, right? 95% people are average, and they need some guidance to get successful, right? They need to, there they lose, and company thinks that they are not good, but they will do wonders once they get the guidance. I have seen myself where people from very very tier 4 colleges doing extremely well comparable to IITians. So second is structure. I mean, if the company can prepare a small structure program, they can just guide that, guys, this is a 2 month program. Every week we will target this. This is you have to target. This is your go-to person, or structure, so that everyone know on the same page that there's no difference. I mean, someone who is very extrovert can get things done. It should not happen, right? It can in tech, in non-tech, it you may appreciate that kind of behavior because you want to extract those people. In tech, it's a different skill which you have to hire for, and then giving them meaningful work, right? So don't give dummy projects. Dummy projects will not add any value, right? In any project, you can always, in today's world, how the tech is or how the coding happens, you can always carve out a small piece of work which you can give it to that person and he can code. Very well possible, right? It's all modular everywhere, right? Because then only the internship the person learns. Otherwise, it is all, you can take a project from Kaggle, code it at home, and say that I have done the internship. And then last is assessment and mentorship. Basically, you have to assess, you have to provide a mentor who will say, hey, you have missed this, work on this next week. Hey, you missed this, work on this next week, right? Completely missing. Why? The reason is techies are very busy. Right? They will say, I am coding day night, I don't have time to mentor the interns, right? Lot of excuses people will make, right? And so these are the four things, I guess. That's why I say internship in tech is little broken at this point of time, right? If when we have implemented it and we have seen good results of interns when they convert into a full-time employee, you save a lot of onboarding cost. Basically, around 3 months of onboarding cost, we call it job ready.
Job ready.
You completely save it, right? Some of the companies they do some of the companies are missing, but this is what my take is on this.
Got it. So Vishwajit, flipping over to you, right? I wanted to understand, how does Vishwakarma ensure that you have effective internship programs where this waste of resource or time is not happening? What are the strategies or the
Yeah, so
programs you
at
use?
Vishwakarma, we have very well developed internship and well curated program. Okay, so I agree with the Gaurav. Like many companies wants day one billable candidates, so don't want to spend time and money on training and all these things. So we suggest them to come for our internship plus PPO program, and that becomes very popular program amongst the industries. And majority of IT product service companies, manufacturing companies, they have adapted with our internship plus PPO program. So it generally starts in the last year, first semester, that's the seventh semester, and that can be extended to eighth semester. So we have a little bit flexibility. Some companies want our students to be with them for 11 months because of the complexity of the project and all, and we allow that without compromising our academics there. And that's really win-win situation for us. But of course, like you mentioned, like your observation, the internship program is little broken. Our experience is little different because while starting with this internship program, we well in advance ask for the JD and all of the details. Okay, and we provide that JD to the student. So only interested students register for the company. So the student who register, who get place, of course they have an interest on that technology, and they work with that company for 6 months, mostly on live projects. They get a training, and our PPO conversion is really great. It's almost 90%. Okay, so we get very good results out of this internship plus PPO program. Of course, there are examples like some students back out, they didn't like the company environment and all. They cannot fit into the company work culture, and sometimes the company terminates some candidates because they cannot adapt with the training technology or the company work culture basically. So of course, in that case, we give another chance to the students. We replace the students with the company, and we have the training and placement policy at place. So that's kind of industry friendly. But we also take care our students should get a very good experience out of that. And I have observed like the student before the internship program, student after the internship program. So I have seen a great change in their personality, in their thought process, and all. So that's really working great for Vishwakarma institutes.
Actually, good internship prepares changes the candidate.
Yeah,
Yes.
and of course we have some control mechanisms here. So like we request company to appoint one mentor at company side. So they appoint some manager to look after the progress and the work. At the same time, we appoint one faculty from college side. So there are almost three evaluation cycles that goes within the 6 months. Okay, and of course there are 12 credits for the internship program. So every quarter, the company mentor, the college mentor sits together with the students and they just review the progress of the internships. So in that way, we control the internship things.
Got it. So now, as a follow up to this, right? So, what I've seen is that, so a lot of companies, India especially, right? What you see is that the 0 to 3 year talent, right? 0 to 3 year talent is a cost to the company. It's an investment that the company is doing, assuming that the person will stick on a little longer, where they can, make returns. But now with the employees' tenure in the company going down and down, right? 0 to 3 years itself is not a surety. Forget after 3 years. So this is happening. So what it is kind of disincentivizing the companies to invest in fresh talent, because anyway there is no stickiness. So because of this, I think the new model is where you collaborate with colleges which have the infrastructure and which have the systems in place already for the learning, and how much collaboration will help in companies getting better talent. So yesterday one services company managing director and country head was here. So he was talking about paying for finishing schools. So basically what they do is, they, irrespective of the college, there is a finishing school. So like, all your while 21 years you spend thinking that you're going to get a job because of your education, And then there is a 6-month program that gets you a job, not your 21 years of education. The 6-month program, you pay money. The students pay money to get. In spite of that, the company that is doing the mid-level orchestration of these training programs and making them employable, right, charges the end employer as well. So there is a cost of about 1.5 to 2 lakhs additional that is being incurred for every employee that is getting onboarded. So that is something that is happening. So how can industry academia collaboration can bring down this time to becoming employable down, and how do you think will be positive contribution for the industry?
And I beg to, I have seen all these job ready programs. I have run it myself also. So I have a different opinion here. I feel that if academia and industry collaborate to redefine internships, 2 month, 3 month, whatever timeline, minimum is 2 months in India, right? I guess there will not be any need of any job ready program. That is what my take is. Right? I have a strong opinion though. Right?
No, I do agree with that. And in fact, Gaurav, adding to your point, this is the job ready space was also something that we were exploring and looking at. But in our and coming back to the same point of saying that the industry and academic relations are broken. So only certain academic institutions, and I'm hearing Vishwakarma as one of them as well, but certain academic institutions work very closely with industries, and certain industries take interest in going back to the academic institutions and creating collaborative spaces. But in India, we have I I don't know
How many people?
how many institutions, how many colleges, how many universities, and therefore how many people coming out from those colleges and universities, where potentially how things are taught, what is being taught, right? Is it outdated? Is it does it even make sense? So the readiness then becomes a critical challenge. Now, again, I think TCS used to do that. I don't know if they still do it. Was when they would hire freshers, you'd go through like a 6 month of boot camp kind
Yeah,
of a
yeah.
program.
Infosys also does that.
TCS,
Infosys also used to
Infosys,
do
all
that.
these companies have these programs.
And that 6 month boot camp is purely you're being trained on the technology that TCS is, or all these companies are currently working on, and also being trained on communication, presentation, Excel, like basic things. Now, they were willing to invest that because they felt that's the future. And at a time, I'm talking about 20 years ago, at a time where something like this was very new. India was just coming up on the whole IT services space. So, but if I'm today going to, as a small company, I'm today going to hire somebody, I will go only to those institutes which has a much robust internship program, because it's much easier for me to pick people up from there in terms of readiness.
I guess I agree. In like so told in Vishkarma, they are providing mentors. These kind of small steps can really improve the outcome of internship. And this is what I've experienced till now. And most of the things, if you see new age scaler, any new age company, they are just saying that we will work on internships. We will give you 6 month internship. We will, they are the job ready thing has completely gone away. Now new thing is internship driven curriculum,
Yeah.
internship driven culture, right? So all the scaler, Masai school, or anything on a new age companies which are there, right? They have launched similar courses.
So, in the non-IT space, right, things tend to be a little different actually, right? So, like for example, in the retail industry, if you look at it, you have a overarching body called RAI actually, okay, industry or body. What they did was they started a initiative of having a finishing school actually, because the biggest problem that the retail industry has is getting people to work in their stores.
Yes, yes,
Okay, uh, trained people and a very high attrition rate. they will shift jobs for 500 rupees. The next store is this thing, you will shift the job. Simple. So the question was, and you would not get trained. There is no course for this, and there's nothing. It's a natural smartness of a person. You have a good personality, able to reasonably communicate with the customer and all of that stuff. You get into retail. You've done your BA or you've done, let's say, 12th pass, and then you don't have other job opportunities. You get into that. So the idea was to start a finishing school for something like that, which would cater to the entire industry. Now that went well, but it has its own challenges actually at the end of it, right? Uh, One is attracting the talent, saying that yeah, I want to get into this industry. Okay, so then it becomes a entire job by itself to attract that talent. And the two is that you need a lot of consensus from different organizations within the retail industry to be able to run this program, because everybody has a different different need, right? So for example, a killer jeans which is selling in, let's say, in a tier 2 tier 3 city, the expectation of your retail executive is different. But a Louis Philippe, which is there on, let's say, on 100 feet road in Bangalore, the expectation of your retail executive is different, actually, right? So that kind of, started well, but I think now I'm not in recent touch, but I think that's something that, so it's an ongoing process of trying to figure out how do you get job ready candidates for each and every industry, right? In the manufacturing, you had a lot of these GETs actually, right? Your graduate engineer. So that was a wonderful way actually, or your MTs. In the olden days, if you are from IIM and you got into HLL, your career was made because you knew that you would reach a top, become a CEO in about 20 years time of an organization actually. About, okay, not maybe not CEO all the time, but at least the CXO level actually, right? um, but there are these challenges across these industries, which need to be addressed, and I think each industry has to take its own uh, uh, path in trying to address that
How do you
actually.
think this path will kind of shorten if there was better, academia collaboration? As in, uh, you're talking about the non-tech side, and there are a lot of colleges that have that kind of talent as well.
Right.
So, in that aspect, how do you think, in general, how do you think an academia collaboration would help it?
It would help a lot because we talk about tech industry and we're talking about specialized courses for that, right? But then you're talking about somebody who's done a BA or a BCom, right? A simple graduation, right? Or a BSc. What can that person, and no plans to do an MBA, doesn't want to do an MBA, doesn't cannot do an MBA because of maybe financial reasons, XYZ. What is a pathway that you can give them for different this thing? So those colleges, those academia, those smaller tier 2 tier 3 colleges which are there, which are maybe independent colleges also, or maybe polytechnic institutes, industry needs to work much more closely with them to be able to guide their students. See, those students don't know what job they're going to get. They just want to get into a course because mere ko kuch job, going to get some job actually, right? But they have no idea what is your career prospects. Okay, what can you do? Where can you do? How can you grow? So I think industry collaboration with those tier 2, tier 3 polytechnic institutes are very important to increase the overall employability factor of the youth today in the country. And I'm just talking at the ground level, actually, where, the base of the pyramid at this point of time.
Actually, if you see it is what is job readiness? Simulation. Simulation, right? In a simulation, academia should know. Have you played? There was a game called Second Life where you can actually go. You can in a system. You can work in at IBM. There is a virtual world, right? Job readiness, I feel, is simulation, right? Where the academia should come and see how the industry works, and where the industry should see how our education works, and they should create a simulation where the student walk and experience the same. right? I guess it can't happen if both collaborate.
Yeah. So in fact, if you look at education institutes, other than your specialized programs, so if you're, let's say, doing hotel management, right, there is no choice, you are doing internships, right, you're doing rotations. If you are doing engineering, if you are doing law, if so, I'm taking specialized segments. The minute you go for generalized courses, there is no internship concept. Students today are doing internships of their own volition. So platforms like Internshala, etc., are supporting students to get those internships. We take a lot of interns coming typically from non-tech backgrounds, doing BA, BCom, and coming in for wanting to learn something about a startup, wanting to do something different, and that is their own volition that they're picking up. I'll give an example. I had a team member who joined us as an intern. And you said cost of hiring is zero. We eventually, in 1.5 months, we realized she's a great fit. We moved her in. We said, you become full time resource. She's never done sales before, but she did sales for a year. She was really good at it. And she said, I did BSc. I didn't want to study MSc, but COVID happened. So my parents said, do MSc. So I did MSc. And it's only in MSc we had one session where someone from the industry came and spoke about different job opportunities, is when I knew there is a field called HR. I knew there is a field called marketing. And that's when I said, okay, how will I learn these fields? Let me try and do internships. So she went on, then of course, like it was her own, curiosity, etc., and her own, I would say, smartness to figure things out, and did one internship with HR, one internship with marketing, then came here to do business development. And she said, how else will I get to know all of this? So the request is also for both academia as well as industry for the non-tech spaces to come together. We don't focus much on it because we believe sales hi to hai, you know.
So sales is not as a skill. It just as you go, it's even looked down upon.
Yeah,
That
but
oh, a salesman, the
uh,
salesman. Okay,
yeah, but
what's the big deal?
but I can tell you, I can, uh and I'm saying this, I can pay, if I pay like 20,000 rupees a month, I can get a good techie. If I pay 20,000 rupees a month, I cannot get a good sales guy. So your the avenue for, like the demand for tech, obviously the supply for tech also has gone up, but for non-tech spaces, there is no specialization. Every salesperson I speak to says, where are the sales folks? Where do we hire them? So or even like retail, so customer service, or um being as a storefront, or even somebody who can actually be in administration space, is not easy. So we don't have any of those specializations. Industry doesn't come in for anything. Institutes don't mandate these kind of internships or equivalent for them. They're like, ah, BA hai na. If you're a Delhi University student, you know that you come, you pick up your books only towards the last, just before your exam. Rest of the time, you're doing everything else but academics. So I'm sure that's the case for most such colleges as well. But how do you bring that structure, discipline, and also the credit system there to say, no, you have to do this. That's when you'll get 12 credits or 10 credits or so on. Will start to make a little bit of a difference in how we look at non-tech talent.
Yeah. At Vishwakarma, I think we have a different solution for this. Like you mentioned, like there is no proper training program to train non-tech students. Like in our MBA program, we do practice this activity called as a shadowing activity. It's a kind of simulation, but it happens at the company office only. So like we have a collaborations and types with so many industries there, and they regularly hire from us. So it's a part of our curriculum. Like the MBA students, the company selects few students and they go to company for 8 week, 8 days or a 15 days duration. So they closely work with the different cadres in the company. So someone work with the HR manager, someone work with the general manager, someone work with the different floor managers. Okay, and they participate in each and every activity that the managers are doing. So it's like a spending a day with the manager, spending a week with the particular manager, and they learn a lot from these activities. End of the day, the manager sits with that intern students, and they discuss about the day's activity. So the manager tells them like during the meeting, like this was a crucial point, and in this way we have made a decision. So in that way, students learn about the industry, about the work. Okay, so from last 10 years we are practicing this activity, and that becoming very famous in the industries. Like HR managers demand us to have the shadowing activity
Right. I mean, this is
with them. Yeah, so that's a
nice.
kind of simulation. We can say a live simulation
Yeah.
there.
As much exposure as you give them,
Yeah.
they understand what it is. Otherwise, the biggest challenge is also to get them out of their college mindset and tell them it is, work environment. It also becomes challenging. And if you are, if you don't have the wherewithal and a volume to run that, it's not, it's not easy.
So, as in, what I understand from being in the HR, being in sales, and all of that is that, women folk are much more accommodative. They work, they work longer, as in, they take fewer breaks. When I say longer, they take fewer breaks. They don't ask for hikes. Once they feel comfortable, they don't move jobs that often. This is like a dream scenario for every employer. Like somebody who does not ask for a raise, who works diligently. Like there is a this thing, like women are there in office for 8 hours, but then during the 8 hours, they spend 6 hours to 6.5 hours working. With men folk, right, what we usually do is we are there in office for 12 hours because we don't want to go home. One. Second is that we also tend to
Working
take
for
break.
6 hours.
So we take a lot more breaks.
Right.
So for us, I wanted to understand that when somebody does not ask for a hike, somebody is more accommodative, somebody doesn't change jobs so frequently, and yet for example, when I was reaching out to CXOs within Bangalore for Titan stock, you are the second woman amongst the 35 guests. It's not by design, it's just by sheer coincidence that the number of leaders that we've identified to invite on talks, only less than 10%, about 5% are women. So when you start the workforce, there are 60% women and then 40% men. And then when you go up, eventually it becomes like that. Why do you think this happens, and what do you think can be done, or what are you doing?
um, I'll take your point on that, on saying the primary reason is because employers want women to stay where they are. So they don't want them to ask for more. They want them to be only diligent workers and not leaders, which doesn't give them the opportunities to actually become a leader. So, and of course, on a lighter note, if I say that, so if I want a worker, I will always ensure that the person is working for me in a way that my KRAs are being met, my objectives, goals are being met. But very little will I think about that person, grooming that person to become my boss. So that also is one of the reasons why we don't have enough women in leadership, because uh, you say women are comfortable being in that space. Some of them, yes, by nature, but also as an organization, they find it very difficult to raise their hand and talk up and make their point of view, because everyone's assumption around them is like, but why are you talking? You why are you asking? You're not supposed. You're we hired you because you don't because we hired you because you're not going to ask. Suddenly you get up and say, okay, I want a hike, I want a better job, or I want a promotion. That's weird. So the mindset is has to break somewhere. So there are a couple of reasons why we don't have enough women in the top. Um, and recent, if you see, the Global Economic Forum's, World Economic Forum's rating of us, we have dropped 2 points on gender pay parity, by the way. So, yes, pay parity in a capitalistic economy doesn't make sense. But if I have a senior manager, HR level one, man, senior manager HR level 1 woman, the pay parity is different. That cannot happen. So you can have different um, levels in terms of performance, and people are okay. So average 20% gap between the top performer, lower performer, most people are okay. So when now let's look at why some of this is happening. First and foremost, we still are we still are largely a very patriarchal society. So we do assume that once the woman gets married and once she has children, she is going to be the primary caregiver in the family. Now, if I am going to be a primary caregiver and I have to run back home at 5 o'clock because I have to either relieve the nanny or, you know, or pick up my child from daycare or wherever I've left the child, and then go home, manage the child, manage the child's food, manage the family's expectations, also listen in occasionally from different people how, because I was not there, the child did not eat well today, manage all of that guilt. I do not have the bandwidth to take up additional responsibility. So even when you come and offer that responsibility to me and say, by the way, this is a promotion, and with this promotion we are going to give better pay. With that also means additional work. I say I don't want to do it because I cannot handle the the extreme expectation on me. So a working woman in India, and I would extend it to most countries which don't have adequate support systems, in India does 2 full-time jobs. Okay, she's literally, I would say, 2.5 full-time jobs if I were to say. That is one of the reasons why women themselves also refuse to move forward. They themselves refuse to take additional responsibilities, and uh, and there is also a lot of myths around them, or in the name of compassion they said, she's a new mother, let's give her lighter projects, let's give her easier work, she'll not be able to manage. There are assumptions. Nobody comes and asks that woman, you've already sidetracked her. So the minute you've sidetracked her, she was on a career path. She has lost that career path by 2 years. Then when she goes out and says, okay, by the way, I was in a senior manager level for the last 5 years, I didn't get promoted. The hiring manager is like, maybe she's not good enough. That's why she didn't get promoted. And she doesn't get that opportunity. She doesn't get that role. So the fact that women are still considered primary caregivers leads to both societal expectations in the organization, and their own self-inflicted guilt, I would say, that as a combination thereof, which doesn't allow them to go forward. The second is organizations are not supportive. Very few organizations have flexibility for women when they come back from maternity leaves. I remember we do programs for organizations for their working mom program, and I remember talking to a very well known organization, and they said, we have great policies for women. We give them 6 months paid maternity leave. I said, sir, that is
Is
policy.
as per law.
I said, that is as per the labor law. You have to give them as long as they're eligible. If they worked with you for 180 days, you have to give them 26 weeks of maternity leave. You're not doing them any additional favor. So organizations are not supportive of women in terms of the supporting them during that process. The third, and I'm going to say this with a with a lot of caution, but it's still a very alpha male leadership space, which means that if I have to be a leader, I have to behave a certain way. I have to act a certain way. I have to be tougher. I have to be more aggressive. I have to be more a go getter, which for a lot of women is against their natural personality trait, which by the way is also against a lot of men's natural personality traits. So let's clear that out. But in case of women, there some for very few who carry those personality traits are able to survive in a very, very alpha male dominated space. So when you see a lot of senior women leaders, they also reflect similar styles and personalities, which is not acceptable or which is not okay for a lot of women, and they do drop out. So these three are primary reasons. What can organizations do is really support them across all three stages if they want to improve their women ratio, but they don't.
No, a follow-up question to that. You said the first point you mentioned is that women themselves prefer a little lighter role because of the multiple responsibilities that they are juggling, and which holds good for a majority of women. When you see that, do for an organization, it does not make economic sense. So that is the reason, probably that's kind of disincentivizes the organization to find out who are the real leaders. They believe that most people do this, so why go against the wind and try and figure it out. So how do it's a chicken and egg problem, I believe.
So, 25 years ago, we were believed to be, and this is a recent quote, I will make a statement. We were believed to be a country which could only do outsourced KPO work. Okay. And a lot of people said you cannot become CEO of American companies or large multinationals if you are in Indian origin. Today, the joke is you cannot become CEO of large American companies or multinationals if you are not of Indian origin. So we have changed the wave. We have proven gone against the typical grain, and organizations have done that. So taking the support of saying, oh, but why do I have to upset the apple cart, is also a very easy way to keep about 50% people out and not face the uncomfortable situation. And the uncomfortable situation, by the way, is also to lead by example. I have I know a lot of senior leaders, male senior leaders, um, who very clearly say, I cannot take a call from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock because it is my time to put my child to bed. It is my time to, whatever, feed my child. Or I will not be available between this time to this time because this is my time to pick up my child from school and, drop her at the daycare. I've seen a lot of male colleagues of mine who would bring their child to the daycare because their organization is supporting that. So it is not just a shift that I need to do at workplace, it's also a shift that I need to do in my home, which a lot of people are uncomfortable to do so. So, which is why it's much easier to say, let's not bother, let's not do this. So, we as a country were able to move from being back end KPO service provider to being one of the leading tech. We are doing tech innovations in the country. We were able to train our people, we were able to develop them to that level. And all this time, we were talking about training and development. But somehow, when it comes to women, we don't want to upset the apple cart because it means upsetting too much in the space and the society. The second easier thing is a lot of organizations today give parenting leave. They don't give maternity leave. So parental leave is 6 months parental leave, which means that if I am a male employee working in your organization, I get 6 months time off. And I can choose that 6 months when I want. We've seen that has made so much difference to the to their partner's ability to continue working, because 6 months of maternity leave I get, my child is just 6 months old. 6 months of maternity leave, let's say my partner gets, I'm able to go back to work, my partner can stay back, and by the time the child is a year old, I can figure out other facilities options to take in terms of support system. So, how do if organizations are not going to take the lead in bringing about a change in the society, then we would have been stuck where we were. We are not, right? So, if we can make differences in everything that we are doing, we can make differences here too.
So when you look at it, right? So I wanted to also add another point. The reason you see Indian CEOs more today is more of an economic cost than, because 1 in 7 people in the world are Indians. Okay. So by sheer volume, we are there. Second is that, everybody wants to, target India as a market. So when they have an Indian face for the company, right? It is marketing dollars for free for them. So although Satya Nadella or Sundar Pichai are no more Indian citizens but are of Indian origin, gives Google and Microsoft the mileage to sell in India. And people are like, very passionate about saying that, hey, we are Indians, we are here, we are there, and all of that. So it's like the same Miss Universe concept. When India was a big, makeup market, as in cosmetics market, so people wanted to, crown all the women from India as Miss Universe and Miss World, so that they can come and advertise the products to us. And then now that Indian market is kind of saturated and we have Indian owned cosmetic brands, now African market is there. If you see the pattern and trend, now you see the Miss Universe and Miss World coming from the Latino or the African world. Not that suddenly they've become beautiful or anything. It's just because Miss Universe is a title held by somebody that is being given to people year over year, and the people putting the marketing dollars generally do it. And I see tech industries, they have Indian CEOs. Primarily is not related to the women part, but primarily because they need to cater Indian market. They need an easy entry into an Indian market. An Indian founder of a large tech company coming to India is news. The PM meets. So, kind of they get fast tracked through the entire market access, right? Than having somebody else. So that is the driving factor, honestly. But yeah, not without talent, but obviously with talent. But then, also coming to women at leadership level, right? So I wanted to ask this, if you look at all very successful career oriented women, now have started outsourcing motherhood, like very successful women with a lot of money. So they have surrogates, they have their own babies with their own DNAs, but they outsource the entire hormonal and pregnancy and postpartum and all of that to to a surrogate mother. And then they continue to focus on their career. And then they tend to have a lot of domestic support. So, not necessarily from the family, but outside, which is hired, which is helping them do it. So, do you think, I'm just putting a thought out there that, that surrogacy is a way that women can, continue working while still having a family?
Um, 99.99% of Indian men outsource their fatherhood responsibility. Okay.
Agree.
So 99.99% of successful career oriented men have outsourced their family responsibilities to somebody. We don't call them that. We only tag this to women. So that's number one. So let's change the words that we use. Second, surrogacy is not by choice. Please understand this. Fertility of women and fertility of men over the years has been dipping significantly due to the lifestyle changes. Families are choosing to have children, couples are choosing to have children a little late in their life. By the time they come in a little late, we know enough people around us, even at the age of 25, 26, having to opt for IVF as an option because they are not able to conceive a child naturally. They have to use a support mechanism. Surrogacy is not because, and I really do want to say this, it is not because I don't want to do that work and therefore surrogacy. Any person who chooses to be a parent is volunteering to, is more than happy or more than excited to take that decision forward. Um, and I can say this. So on our one of our podcast episodes, we had a young mother there who spoke about how fertility challenges really impacted her own confidence. Forget about anything else, just the own confidence of saying, nature has given me one job of being able to have a child. I'm not able to do that. So surrogacy is not coming from a space because I have money or from a space because I don't want to do this. Surrogacy is coming because I don't have a choice. It is literally the last option that somebody resorts to, followed up by adoption. So, natural conception, IUIs, IVFs, followed by surrogacy, followed by adoption is the methodology. If I choose to have a child of my own DNA, but my body does not allow it, or a combination of your and my genes don't allow it, I will opt for a surrogate option so that I can have a child that is genetically mine. And that has nothing to do with where I am in um, my career. In fact, a lot of surrogacy is done by families where the women are at home. So they are not necessarily career women, they're at home. So that's the second myth that we pick out. Let's talk about the third part. Women outsource help. Yes. What do you do? I mean, what will you do? You have to outsource help, right? So if two people in a family, and today families are smaller and we can keep arguing about the pros and cons of nuclear families, joint families. Reality is today families are smaller. So a couple managing a child, a young baby, both of them are going to work. Let's assume both of them only have a 9 to 5 job. They leave at 9, they're back at 5. Somebody has to take care of the child between 9 and 5. And once they are back at home, are the work responsibilities divided equally? The answer is no. Are the night duties done by the, and I'm making very stereotyping statements, but the early night duties are not done by the father, because typically the father will go and sleep in another room. Usually it's either the mother-in-law or the mother, the grandmother of the baby in some way, who will come and sleep with the mother, so that if the child wakes up 15 times at night, she's okay. The father has had a good night's rest, he can go back to office. Am I wrong when I say this?
No, you're
So
not.
if I as a woman want to even have 4 hours where I want to work, what do? I have to outsource it. The outsourcing, the best place to outsource will be my family. But today that is not as much an option, because my parents are older. They're probably not co-located with me. They're not comfortable leaving their family home and coming and staying with me, and so on and so forth. What do I do? So getting support is a real help, and which is where, and again, the fact that you said is, a lot of people are able to do that because they do have some financial comfort. The ones who don't have are leaning on the organizations to support them more and more, which is why daycare facilities, which is why access to daycare facilities, which is why work from home, and so on. So almost 35% women attrited from one of the larger IT companies when they mandated that you have to come back to work 5 days a week. Because suddenly they said, when work from home can happen, why are you mandating us? Right? When nothing broke. They all, in fact, made a lot more money during COVID than anything else. Nothing broke. So I think the we have to shift the narrative. We can't continue the same narrative of saying a woman is expected to do all of this. Uh, I I don't like the tag of saying, oh, you're a, and I'm going to say this aloud, to say, you have outsourced motherhood. You cannot outsource it. You genuinely cannot outsource it. You cannot outsource being a parent. You can reduce the non-value adding activities. By the way, changing a diaper 15 times a day doesn't make me a great mother. But sitting with my child and maybe getting my child to experience something new, write on sand, play with something, probably makes me a better mother. So which one would I outsource? The non-value adding activities. The simple outsourcing logic, right? So I choose to outsource non-value adding activities so that the limited time that I have, I'm able to give better value add and create a better relationship with my child, and not die of guilt every single day in managing that. So, yeah.
Agreed. So actually, I think the outsource word got you a little riled up,
No, no, so it
but
didn't get me riled up. I'm just, no, I'm not getting riled up. I'm just saying that this is a word thrown around a lot, and almost in a way to make women feel guilty. I'll give you a very small example. We run working mom programs for organizations. There was one participant who came in and said, I have to come in late to office. I come in late to office and I leave early. My office time is 9 to 5. Come in by 10. I have to leave by 4:30 because I have to relieve my nanny. So therefore do the handover. So the conversation was happening. We had a very, senior woman leader talking to her, saying, "Is there any way that your husband can maybe take one shift? Like, either you come in late and he takes the evening, or you come in early and he whatever. So can that done?" She said, "No, actually, my husband works from home, but I'm being told that I am focusing so much on my career that I am now have to compromise on whatever that I'm doing, right? So now what do I do?" So it's also self-inflicted, it's also guilt that's put on. The minute I outsource that work to somebody, I'm made to feel guilty about it. The minute I give anybody else the responsibility, I'm made to feel guilty about it. So that's the word that I want to, personally, if I were to say this, and I want to change that narrative, and I do say this out very loud. I'm not a mom myself, but I understand one of the primary reasons why we still are struggling with women in leadership, women in senior spaces, women in job roles, is the fact that we are we are where we are. We are using certain phrases, certain mindsets very freely without changing anything around it.
I wanted again, so as in, so what I wanted to kind of convey is that would making women feel less guilty about not doing everything on their own, and then having external support system, including but not limited only to surrogacy, as in surrogacy is the extreme form of it. So that way, the whole thing, it's your baby at the end of the day. You're going to be the mother and you're going to take care of everything. Would that part, kind of alleviate and, make them more productive, or make them be able to be stay in the workforce while still being a good mother? That is what I wanted to, kind of understand that bit.
So, Gautam, you're picking up very multiple layers and complex pieces. The challenge is that every mother is a good mother. Okay, let me start with that. The minute I care about my child and I'm worried about my child, I am a good mother. Now, your form of parenting may be different from Gaurav's form of parenting, may be different from anyone else's form of parenting. You may say that, I want to feed my child by hand. Somebody else may say, "Oh, no, my child should eat on their own." A good movie example is Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway, where the Indian way of raising was considered to be child abuse in a country like that, where the mother was separated from her children,
Yeah, and
right?
that's a true story
And it's
actually.
a true story. So you can say, "I am not a good mother." I can say, "You're not a good father." And we can keep going on round and round. So every mother is a good mother. Let's start with that. Now, can I take away the guilt of saying, "No, you don't have to do everything"? What do you mean by everything? Let's start defining that. Um, so that you can focus on work. Yes, I do want to focus on work. I also do want to spend time with my child. I don't want to completely, like, not be known. The other guilt is that mothers do share is like, when I come back home, my child is clinging to Nani and not coming to me, or clinging to the nanny and not coming to me, is such a big worry that I don't want that, right? um I would love it when a point where we reach at least 50% of men coming and worrying about this. That is when we will start to have a little difference in how women's workforce work is being perceived. So today, a lot of couples, and unfortunate, and I'm against stereotyping, but a lot of people want their partners to work so that financially both are doing well. But if both are going out, then some bit of home plus family responsibilities also needs to be shared at home. In the absence of that, because I can't go into every house and say, "Mister, please do this, family, please do this," can I, as an organization, support the woman who's coming in? And that's my role as an industry, as an organization. And that's where the difference will come in.
Perfect. So got good amount of content around that part.
Yeah.
As in
Very well articulated, actually.
yes. she was like, I don't want to stereotype, but she had like, in max you and to make an assumption to prove something, right? You start with 0 is equal to 1, and then you will go through the entire thing, and then this is why 0 is not equal to 1. So that kind of statements. Okay, we get to the last part, decision dilemmas, where the two options are presented, both are equally good. You have to pick one, and you end up picking one. Not necessarily an explanation for why you picked one, but just what you would pick. I'll go with Ajay first. Okay. uh, Hiring for potential or hiring for experience?
Potential.
Diversity in hiring or technical proficiency?
Technical proficiency.
Lochan will not
No,
punch
no,
you.
I will absolutely go with what he said.
So, invest in employee development or external training programs?
External training programs also, they result in employee development, no?
No, which is preferable option?
Employee development.
Internal employee. Remote work for flexibility or on-site collaboration?
There's no,
That's why I asked you the question. There is no clear
Tough.
answer.
depends on the situation, but remote working.
Internal talent pipelines or rely on external recruitment?
Ajay will be like, why are you keeping, you're hurting my profession.
uh, internal.
Okay. Lochin, for you. Focus on early career mentorship or hands-on project experience?
I would say hands-on project experience,
Academic qualification or practical skills?
practical skills.
Encourage specialization or promote generalist skills?
We are heading into a generalization space. So, yes, promoting generalist skills,
Soft skills or technical skills?
soft skills. By the way, they're not soft anymore. They're very hard skills to build. So, yeah, but soft skills.
Soft skill hard to build, not hard skills. Okay. So long-term employee engagement or immediate performance incentives?
One feeds into the other. So, you have to do immediate performance review to do long term engagement, but eventually it has to be long term engagement. So, multiple things that lead to long term engagement.
Okay. Gaurav, for you, standardized testing or holistic student assessment?
Holistic.
Curriculum, you have to develop it in-house or collaborate with external experts?
Collaborate with external experts.
Online learning platforms or traditional classroom?
Hybrid.
Actually, yeah, hybrid.
Good one, yeah.
I'll take it. It's a nice answer. Technical education or entrepreneurial skills?
Again, hybrid.
No, this one you choose
Okay,
one.
can you repeat once?
Technical education or entrepreneurial skills?
Entrepreneurial skills.
Advanced technologies or foundational skills?
Foundation.
Vishwajit, interdisciplinary studies or specialized courses?
As per demand, specialized courses.
Industry internships or academic research?
Of course, industry internships.
Local businesses or global companies?
Can be a blend, but again, global companies.
Theoretical knowledge or practical application in education?
Practical applications.
Faculty development or student focused programs?
Can be a blend, but student focused programs. That's
Got it. Great. So, yeah, thanks. So, the last part is in the contributions part. So, we all, the objective of this is to bridge the gap between academy and industry. So, we want to make India more employable. So, this water everywhere and no water to drink is India's problem. The 0 to 3 year, nobody wants to touch that part, but everybody wants experienced talent. And there is a, like a deluge of talent coming into the Indian employer workforce every year, but then it's not being, it's not something that they can be readily used. So wanted all of you to make a positive contribution towards how we can do it. It could be that you can mentor a few students, or you can offer internships to students, or some cases we have people setting up COEs in the educational institutions. So wanted to start it off with you, Gaurav.
So, as an organization, we work even in startups. I've been associated with startups. So, mentorship, internships, whatever way, I even, take sessions for colleges some of the times. So I'm already involved in some of the capacity wherever required in whatever form, because at the end I strongly feel that the the better the workforce is, the better the country will grow overall, right? And that's how we will continue to generate value overall. So the internships, mentorship, I'm already doing it and open to do anything. Yeah.
Sure, I will get it. Ajay.
Yeah, I mean, on similar lines, I think, because I think internships are very, like he said, it's broken that, and it really needs to be fixed, actually. I think. Uh, so, yeah, you know, to connect with different organizations that I work with also, actually. So, yeah, internships and also mentorships, maybe to help students who are interested in the HR space, how the industry works. Yes.
He's CHRO of Clay. He was CHRO of Clay, by the way. He did not, you guys don't do
No,
enough
no, I
advertising
don't.
about
I
yourselves.
was not the CHRO. I was the head of talent acquisition there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, you guys don't do enough advertisement, actually. So, Lochan.
Um, so very actively, I do. I mean, I involve interns. I work a lot with interns, and I do believe that's a very good route as well. So we'll want to continue to do so in any form and manner. Second, of course, is also act as a guide and a mentor to a lot of younger folks. Absolutely okay, as long as they want to be mentored. That's my criteria. But have done so for in the past as well. Very happy to continue to do so. Work more closely with institutes and colleges to be doing that more actively. And third, I was part of the board of studies for Presidency University. So being on some of these academic boards as well to just bring in the practical or the industry requirements into the curriculum. So yeah, those are those are some ways that I've done and I would want to continue doing.
Absolutely great. Thank you very much. It's a positive step in the right direction, and eventually it'll all lead to having more readily consumable talent. So that 0 to 3 year, the objective is to make India more employable and bring that 0 to 3 years to 6 months to 1 year, so that because services companies are at a great pressure for gross margins. If they don't hire freshers, they will not survive. And if the training costs are going to be that high, and with kind of the competition, without making India more employable, it will not work out for them in the long run. So that's about it. Thank you very much. Thanks all of you for taking the time today.
Hey, thanks for watching Titans Talk today. I hope you had a really insightful session. I'm Gautam, your global CHRO who helps you buy, build, and rent talent across industries, across levels of experience. If you want to hire freshers or if you want to hire laterals, do get in touch with us with the link below, and my team will get in touch with you to take it from there. Looking forward to meeting you again in another episode.